Good morning, greeting students. My name is Mr. Treasure, and I will be a physics teacher for this year and for next year, up until CSEC. So, as you're aware, we're not able to meet face to face. So we have to go through a week of preparation by going through some of the information that you did last year, for some refreshing purposes. I am really excited to work with you, and um, I I won't be using the software for the entire session. It's just for this first 15 minutes, just to introduce myself. Okay, let's get into the lesson. All right. So as I mentioned, this is what we'll be covering for this week: Introduction to Physics, Lab Equipment, Area and Volume, Galileo Simple, Pendulum. Alright, this is what I hope we're able to finish most of this because they are essential in moving forward into grade 10. Okay, what is physics? So physics is the branch of natural science that focuses on studying matter, motion, energy, and force through space and time. It's a very different science field, but it's one of the fundamentals in the science community. And most companies look to physicists for studies that they do, and we'll talk about that further down, right? But this is the general definition of physics. Let's move forward. Okay. All right. So yeah, many branches in physics, but the main branches are classical physics, modern physics, nuclear physics, atomic physics, biomechanics, acoustic, optics, and thermodynamics. Alright, so classical physics is basically the fundamental for physics overall. Modern physics started with mainly Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton he did work in classical physics, but he played the foundation in modern physics for pioneers such as Albert Einstein and so forth. Nuclear physics has to do with studying nuclear reactions. Atomic physics, studying the structure of an atom and their bonds. Geophysics uses physics material to study geographical areas. Biophysics is used to determine the interaction of atoms to the human body. It is very important for the medical field because they have to study the different radiations that you're using, for example, in cancer patients. Mechanics study the movement mainly of objects, so speed, velocity, acceleration, so forth. Anything that has to do with movement, motion, that's mechanics. Acoustics has to do with sound, mainly how sound interacts as a wave with different objects, how it interferes, how humans are able to hear, right, at different frequencies. So acoustic mainly studies sound. Optics mainly studies, as it suggests, light. Optics can see, so the behavior of light in different areas, in different circumstances. Thermodynamics is a very important branch in physics because it focuses on the different the different the different characteristics of temperature and how it is affected in different areas based on volume, based on pressure, right? How temperature is affected. All right, let's move on. All right, so you have different careers in physics that make quite a lot of money. Physics is a very wide field, right? You have data scientists, which study data derived from various platforms, such as the any form of meteorological site, or maybe it could be a satellite. They get data from the satellites and they analyze the data, make conclusions, make recommendations. You have the earthquake unit engineer, where after earthquake, immediately after earthquake, you can know the magnitude of an earthquake from an earthquake unit engineer, because he studies the seismic activities on a daily basis, and he tries to put measures into place where we can at least know the size of an earthquake, or if we're under some form of threat to seismic activity, because it happens on a small wavelength first and then it increases. So if there's any seismic activity, then he will know, the engineer will know and notify us. Right? They have astronomer, of course, person who studies outer space. I have physics teacher, such as myself. I have a professor who works at the university in overseeing different projects taken on by researchers. I have electrical engineer. These persons study how to set up different equipments, how to set up various, they know the proper way of setting up a building, how to improve electricity efficiency in giving out electricity. They also know about devices, how to set up devices, how to fix devices and stuff. Aerospace engineer, this is a person that specializes in creating equipments or making the equipment suitable for outer space or for in the air, such as the airplanes and so forth. They are the persons who specialize in making sure that these equipment are able to withstand the pressure difference, and are able to stay in the air, because that is one of the most important things. All right, you have the lab technician. These are the persons who carry out labs, make labs available for students. They ensure that the labs are kept up to date, bringing in the newest equipment and so forth. That is essential. You have mechanical engineer. These are the persons that design bridges. They design tall buildings. They use physics background to determine whether or not a bridge will be able to withstand the force coming from a truck. Right? You have an alternative energy engineer. These are the persons who can install alternative energy equipment, solar energy, wind energy, and so forth. So you have many careers in physics, a lot that you can choose from. I'll be doing this last slide and then move over to the next software. Alright, the importance of physics. Physics is one of the foundational elements. Right, you have many elements in physics that play a very critical role in other important fields such as chemistry, engineering, biology, and even computer science. As I said, many of the data scientists, they know about computer, they know about programming, they know about Python. So an engineer is basically a physicist that put theories into daily practices, right? There are many concepts in chemistry that you need physics to understand. You need physics to understand concepts such as the power, such as the gas law, such as chemical bonds, and many equipment in other science areas, such as medicine, depend on physics to study the interaction of them. Right, as I mentioned, they look to study the interaction of atoms on the human body and how they are affected. Right, so for your coming diagnostic test at the end of this session, you can just look to know at least 10 of them, 10 of these. Right, you just won't need to study them. You won't be needed to memorize them. You just should be able to identify them. Right, you should be able to identify carriers in physics. You won't need to necessarily memorize, because it is a multiple choice paper. Right. All right, so the importance of physics. We have a little more time on the software. So governments are looking to physics for information. Right, there's a big issue right now as it relates to global warming and climate change. Right, and they're looking to physicists to come up with technologies that can be used to combat climate change by using alternative energy. As you know, the more we use gas, the more the more we use oil as our source of power, the more gases. We'll learn about this later down in the course, but I'm just introducing it to you that the more we use oil, the more gases are released in the atmosphere, which cause global warming. Right, and this can only be solved by using alternative energy. All right, so the governments are also looking to physics to determine the magnitude of earthquakes, and it's possible that we can know it. They're working to possibly predict an earthquake. We're not able to predict an earthquake tomorrow, or if an earthquake is coming next week. We're not able to do that, but we have many physicists right now, I'm sure, are studying to be able to predict an earthquake. All right, and also governments and other media outlets look to physics to determine the category of a hurricane. Right, after as a hurricane approaches an island or an area of land, the people want to know, like, what's the category of this earthquake? Is it going to is it going to cause a lot of damage, a lot of money? Right, so these are very important roles that physics play in society. These are just some of the important roles. You have many other. All right. Okay, so scientists in physics. Okay, so we have we'll be looking at two main scientists today. We're looking at Galileo, and we'll be looking at Newton. Right, so for Galileo, you're required to know about this. Right, for the diagnostic test, you'll just be required to be able to identify. But for your CSEC exam, which you'll be preparing for as we get the chance, you should be able to speak on Galileo and his contribution to the scientific community. So before Galileo methods were considered in the scientific community, concepts in science were only approached on the basis of thoughts and belief. So this means is that you just had a random person saying that he's a scientist, and he comes up with this big idea that the sun is a square, right? And for example, the sun is a square, and he has no proof. Galileo came, and whenever he comes up with an idea, he tests his idea, right?